Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects stopped by to discuss Michael Misa's game.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. Want to thank you for making the Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today, Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects stops by where we discuss Michael Misa, one of the big four. We talk about what makes him intriguing. We talk about the Chernyshov factor, where he would fit in the Sharks' development and timeline and all that fun stuff. Plus, we get Cam's thoughts on the 2025 draft. So before we get to all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And now we are joined by Cam Robinson, the guy at Elite Prospects. Built it brick by brick from what I've heard. Cam, how's it going, buddy?
Good, man. Good. Definitely did not build it brick by brick. I think I was about 12 when they started that company. But I do have a good time with them. They treat me well, that's for sure.
Yes. I mean, of course, we know you're all over the headbands. I know no headband today. Probably got lost in the fun at Four Nations, but you're all over it. We see your draft coverage everywhere, and you're making your Locked On Sharks debut to talk about one Michael Misa. So before we get into Misa, let's get to know him really quick. 6'1", 185-pound center forward from Saginaw in the OHL. This season, he's played 48 games, 46 goals, 56 assists, 222 shots on goal. That's a lot of production. So, Cam, as I ask everybody, what makes Michael Misa such an intriguing prospect?
I mean, where do we start? I mean, the kid is the most dynamic offensive player in the draft. I think that's a pretty safe thing to say at this point. Great speed, attacks the middle of the ice, fearless, going in there, blazing, cutting into the middle, does it with his head up and, his eyes wide open. So he's not getting tuned up in the middle there too, getting caught. Good release, even better playmaking, good handles. He's a competitor. He's a leader. Where's the C for Saginaw now? He's a good kid too. I've spoken with him numerous times, and his reps, and they're all great people too. He's got good people directing him. He's a player, man. He's a hell of a player, and I think part of what makes him so intriguing too is an exceptional status kid steps in, has just a phenomenal 15-year-old season, right? Mm-hmm. Then kind of plateaus a little bit as a 16-year-old. Ends up playing a bigger role, kind of in that stretch drive in the Mem Cup, and ended up being, a star level player for him by the end of the year. But everyone's kind of like, well, so good young. Did he kind of peak a little bit early, and then this year, he's just like, I'm gunning for number one, and he's taken every step to put himself in the position to be a first overall pick.
So I know, right, especially for a guy like me, so the exceptional status, who's been in the limelight, we've been kind of waiting for this guy to, kind of for his draft and stuff. What do you think is the one trait with him where you're just like, this is what's going to make him special in the NHL?
I wouldn't say he has one thing, like Connor McDavid shot, Austin Matthews, or Connor McDavid speed, Austin Matthews shot. He doesn't have that one kind of defining skill factor that's going to be that's going to make him a superstar. But it's the sum of his parts, right? He is plus across the board. So he is very speedy. He's got great wheels. Like I said, he's above average at basically everything. And then you add that competitive fire, that desire to win and to produce and to push himself, challenge himself. So you get that combination, and that's usually what some of the better players in the league have in common, right? Is that just they're never settling. They always want to get better, and that's Michael Misa.
All right. Of course, all Sharks fans, right? We've been waiting for the fireworks factory known as Igor Chernyshov. Waiting. We finally get to see him. As we're recording this, he's producing 3 points per game. Pretty good. Those two have played really well together. Is this something? Is it Chernyshov driving? Is it Misa driving? Is it just them both just being awesome what they do? Is just shared credit in this?
Yeah, let's call it shared credit, but I mean, Misa's a step above on skill wise. But the cool thing is that so he's played with Christian Epperson most of the season, who is a draft +1 who went undrafted last year, who we love at EP too. Like we'll probably keep him at the tail end of our first round, or a lot of outlets have him like in the third or fourth. And then he's playing kind of a rotating door of younger guys on the other side. So now you add Chernyshov, who's like a highly skilled player himself. And they look like gangbusters, right? Like it's kind of a match made in heaven a little bit. Both lefties, but it works out just fine with Epperson on the other side too. So it's a nice, and obviously for Sharks fans, it's nice to envision what that could look like down the line. Now you kind of get into the whole like, would they actually be a duo in the NHL? That's another question, but yeah, they're making some magic in Saginaw this year too, for sure, and they're going to push, right? They're looking to push, and obviously it's hard to go back to back for Memorial Cups, but they're not settling at this point. They definitely have their eyes on a deep playoff run.
Yeah, I'm watching Saginaw. It does feel like they do have to kind of outscore a lot of their problems right now, which is fine, especially when you have Misa and Chernyshov doing their thing right now. But you do wonder if that eventually, when you start playing some of the top teams in the OHL, if that does kind of come back to bite you. But that's a problem for a different day. So with Michael Misa, right? I know you have the big thing with the Sharks, right? You have Macklin celebrating, who is your 1C. Is Misa just going to, if the Sharks were to draft him, just be like this awesome 2C that nobody really could compete with? Or do you see him more as a wing? I know you also have the Will Smith question, which I know you had some questions about Will Smith and kind of where he fits in the NHL. Or is this just take good players and figure it out later?
Yeah, always take good players, right? I'm look at Chicago. I think they got themselves in trouble a little bit by Galaxy branding it a little bit and being like, we need the defenseman in Levshunov, and we're going to pass on some of these other players. And now they've kind of got themselves in the position where if they pick first, it's like, can they even take Schaefer? They need a running mate for Bedard, so you don't want to like get ahead of yourself too much. A need today isn't necessarily a need tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, that would probably make the most sense, is that Misa would just slide in there behind Celebrini, and then you could have Smith on the wing. Maybe you put Misa on the left side of Celebrini, and Smith can play the middle of the ice on the second line. You can have Chernyshov on the left next to Misa on the second line, and Smith on the right. So you got all sorts of potential there, right? And you got William Eklund just to slide around too. So, good problems to have if that's how it ends up for Sharks fans, for sure.
Okay. I do want to question, like with Misa, he did play kind of slide to the left, slide to the wing for a little bit, and then kind of come back to playing center. Is that something that you worry about, where he played kind of transitioning back, or do you think he's just a natural center? He was kind of doing what the team asked him to do in that situation.
It's interesting. So early on in the season, people that I really trust and respect on the NHL side of things, questions were raised. Is he a center long term?
Yep.
Are the details of his game there enough? And I've always, kind of maintained throughout this year that I see him as a center. And, several of those people would be like, it could happen. He could definitely be a center, but they weren't confirmed. They weren't locked in that he could be that. And I think, we saw even like the CHL top prospects game there in London and Oshawa. Caleb Desnoyers, he played the middle on the top line, right? Me slid over to the wing. Look good. He looks good when he's on the wing, because he can kind of use that speed to really blow and use it north-south a little bit more, and kind of relieve some of that defensive responsibility where you got to come down low and support the defender and be there for the breakout. You can kind of get wheeling up and down, which is fun for players oftentimes too. But he wants to play the middle of the ice. I think he has the details of the game. He has the size. He has the speed. He wins like 60% of his draws in the O too as a draft eligible. So he's good in the dot. No, I do think I think if there's a spot down the middle that makes sense, he's a center. If you have an abundance of great centers, then I'm sure he would fit quite fine on the wing as well. But, to have that versatility, that's never a bad thing, right?
Yeah. Right. It's always good to have players who can play in multiple spots. Again, Just draft good players, and you'll probably try to figure it out. These guys are so high level, like they're able to adapt to different situations. They'll figure it out. They're too good, too smart to not figure it out. So, all right, before we continue with Cam, we talk about Michael Misa's timeline, kind of where he fits, all that fun stuff. Do need to take a quick break. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer a one-size-fits-all policy, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage up to $5 million. No medical exam required. It's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Just go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. All right. We talked a little bit about the fit, but for the Sharks, and I know a lot of Sharks fans are very much on Matthew Schaefer. We'll talk about Schaefer here in a little bit, but do you think if the Sharks, maybe if they don't get that first pick and they have their pick of Schaefer, Hagens, Porter Martone, do you think he is the best fit of those three for the Sharks and what they're trying to kind of build here? Or do you think if you're Mike Grier, do you go in a different direction?
It's an interesting question. I'd love to be a fly on the wall for their in that war room. Because like I could make an argument for all three.
Yep.
Martone just like has the ability to take over games with his skill and he's such a big body. I know he gets a lot of kind of pub for being this like power forward. I've heard like Mikko Rantanen comparisons. He's not that like hard of a player, but he is so talented and he is a big body that you could probably teach him to be a little more snarly. He has it in him. Like he'll flash it. So to bring that's an element that isn't really there for the young Sharks anyways, to put a big power guy on the wing who can play make and finish, but most primarily be a playmaker off the wing like that. That's a useful, unique piece, right? James Hagens has some dynamic skill as well. You know, he's very offensively inclined, but he's also has like a really strong two-way game too. So to have that as your number two center, where it's like he could be a matchup guy while also playing on your top power play unit, right? That's interesting too, right? So, and then Misa is the most dynamic of the three with the speed and the skill and the dual threat offense and the IQ. Like there's all sorts of combinations that you could look at. I would have a hard time choosing if I was San Jose and Mike Grier, right? Like if he came up to me and he's like, Cam, you're making this call, I'd be like, oh shit, here we go. I don't know. I don't know if I'd have an answer for you today. I would probably end up with a few more gray hairs before I figured that one out.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is we have several months to litigate and debate this, or the Sharks just win the draft lottery and hopefully just pick Matthew Schaefer. We don't have to go through all that. So, but
there you go.
Fingers crossed. Anyway, Misa's timeline, right? And it doesn't feel like this year, like last year, okay, we knew Celebrity going to be in the NHL next. Connor Bedard going to be in the NHL. It doesn't feel like there's guys who are slam dunks to be in the NHL. Do you think for Misa, it's probably another season in the OHL and then you kind of figure things out from there? Or like, what do you kind of figure his timeline before he's making an NHL impact?
Yeah, I put this out there, I don't know, a few days ago that I have this like mild take that I don't think anybody from this class is NHL ready.
I did see this, yes.
That nobody should step into the league next year. I think Jimmy Hagens needs another year at BC. I think Misa would be served very well going to, let's say, Boston University and going to play in the NCAA for a season. I think that a guy like Porter Martone would look good in, say, Michigan and have a season in the NCAA. And then Schaefer, right? He's the youngest player in the class for all intents and purposes. and then he's going to end up playing like, a dozen games this year through injury. Now
Yeah.
he's so good though. He's so mobile. He's so smart. He's so dynamic that he could come into a team's camp next year and just be too good to cut. So if there's one guy that I think that he could kind of bust that little take I have, it's Schaefer, just because he is so impressive, right? And coaches are just like, oh my God, like this, how is he so young and so good? So if anyone's going to do it, but I think long-term, the most beneficial thing for him would be to go back and play another year in the CHL or the NCAA. I don't know if I haven't heard any buzz around him going there, but yeah. So I think that there's going to be probably a guy or two that does it. We see it every year. I mean, how like back in the day, Ryan O'Reilly is a second rounder made it, right? Like that kind of stuff happens from time to time where you don't really expect it. So there's probably a guy, but no, I don't think anybody is ready to really step in, or at least step in and make like a true impact.
That's funny you talk about this, kind of the going from the CHL to NCAA for a year. You wonder with some of these top prospects, right, where it does feel like they become very much big fish in a small pond. You look at a guy like Quentin Musty for the Sharks this year, who's had a rough year because of injuries and et cetera, but definitely big fish, small pond with Sudbury. Sam Dickinson, I think, is going to be kind of in the same situation next year with London, where it's either NHL or bust, or going back and playing in the OHL, where he's going to just destroy people on London. But these guys who play a couple years in the CHL go play a season in the NCAA and kind of refine, especially the two-way game. Do you potentially see that as a route that maybe some of these top guys take who just aren't quite NHL ready?
Oh, yeah. I think there's all sorts of reasons for doing it. Not the least of which is NIL money, where it's like, I cannot even
getting
sign
paid
my
money is
contract.
Nice. Yeah. Yes.
Right. And so like, depends on who you are. You could be making 400K, 800K, 1.5 mil, right? Like you can make more money staying in college than even signing your ELC and playing in the show. So like, and that's just financially. But the opportunity to go, and it's like the one downside is that it doesn't have like an NHL style schedule. But if you've already played 2 or 3 seasons in the CHL, you've played a 70-game season already. So now you're coming over here. You have like state-of-the-art facilities, training. You play on the weekends. You train all week. You get to experience like the college atmosphere for a hot minute. And like, I don't know about you, but I would not have traded those years for anything, really, right? Like that. Those are formative years. Those experiences, you cannot get those back. So to have that opportunity for some of these kids, and and you're playing against older competition, right? You're playing against guys 22, 23, 24 years old, and you're 18, 19 or whatever like that. You're playing against bigger, stronger players versus CHL. You're playing against like 16-year-old, 17-year-old kids that aren't going to be pros. So it's a higher level of competition, and I do think it's a nice bridging of the gap for some of these guys. OHL, NCAA, and then you can even slip into the A for a minute too, right? Even as a 19-year-old or something like that, and then you can push up into the NHL. So it just opens up that path for them a lot. And I know that lots of top guys they're definitely exploring it. Everyone's waiting for their seasons to finish before they make any decisions. But the really interesting one is Gavin McKenna, if he does it for his draft eligible season, and that'll kind of be like a bell ringer for the whole CHL. They don't want that to happen. But for these guys that are already drafted or about to be drafted, I absolutely think that they're looking at it hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially I know it stinks for the CHL to have these like top end guys maybe not there for their kind of peaks and stuff like that, but it's not like the CHL is dying for talent, right? They have new guys coming in all the time. They're going to be I think the CHL will be fine. And again, like you think of guys again, like I just mentioned, right? Quentin Musty, who's basically just kind of hanging around this year, waiting to play tougher competition to try to kind of refine his game. Sam Dickinson is going to be in the same spot next year, where he's again, like, what good is Sam Dickinson going to do going back to London to play in 30 minutes a game and doing the exact same stuff he's doing next year on what's probably going to be a worse London team with all the guys that they have expected to kind of graduate. Unfortunately, Sam Dickinson already signed his ELC, so he's kind of stuck in that situation. But I'm really curious to see kind of as a much bigger picture, but like what these top players do and how it kind of affects their development. Because again, like you said, right, playing bigger, stronger competition, it'll be really interesting. So, all right, before we finish up with Cam, we talk about the 2025 NHL draft. He gives his one-word opinion on what this draft looks like, and a player that we are not talking about enough. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get on than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or just want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Of course, there's nothing more exciting in basketball than when Steph Curry is doing Steph Curry things. So if you feel like Steph Curry is just going to go off your next game, FanDuel can help make some winnings off a Steph Curry flurry. So the best thing about it, too, is the app's super easy to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's shift gears and kind of talk about this 2025 draft as a whole. So when your first word that comes to your mind when you think of the 2025 NHL draft is
top heavy. Yeah, it's top heavy, right? It's the big four, a little gap, 4 or 5 more, bigger gap. And then we start to crumble a little bit. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some players I like at 15 or 18. But there's some guys that if I was sitting there at pick 23, 24, I'd be like, man, are we really using this pick on this type of player right now? So I think it's going to be fun in LA because teams are going to start taking some wild cuts, I think, probably a lot earlier than we expect. There'll be guys that will be taken that are on, public lists that are, third rounders where people be like, what? Because guys are going to be going for upside. They're going to be like, why settle here? We'll go for a cut on this guy who one of our regional scouts really likes and has a good beat on, who thinks he has a chance of being an impactful player, maybe a top 6 winger or a top 4D or something like that, but might bust out. But I mean, this guy's going to be not much either. So let's just go swing for the fences.
So if you're saying you just got a shiny new Dallas Stars pick that's going to be in the late 20s,
that's like a 40s or 50s pick normally, right? And that's why teams are so, like, these contenders are so open to doing that this year.
Just trading,
But sellers are asking for 2026 picks, buyers are offering 2025 picks. Everybody knows what's up, and that's just how it is, right? Like, it's not a throwaway, but the value is definitely muted compared to different classes.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how many, like Mike Greer in general, what he does. But I think he's going to be aggressive this offseason, especially trying to revamp this blue line. I'm curious. My guess is I actually don't think he picks with that Dallas pick. I think they flip it for something else, but a conversation for a different day. So the big four, of course, right? Schaefer, Misa, Martone, and then Hagens. How do you have them ranked right now? I assume Schaefer first, unless you have you're wild about somebody else. But Schaefer kind of feels like the guy right now.
Yeah, he was 2 for me all the way back in August at the Holinka, and I wish I was a little more bold and I put him at 1 then. But no, he's 1. He's been 1 for a while now. I got Misa at 2. At the moment, I've got Hagens 3, Martone 4, but I'm thinking about flip-flopping that a little bit these days. It might go Martone at 3, Hagens at 4, and I kind of, if I had to bet on an order right now, and it's dependent on who's picking, of course, but I could definitely see Hagens ending up at 4 in this class, which is kind of the Shane Wright path, consensus 1 early, and then starts to slip down and then ends up at 4.
All right, so Schaefer, we mentioned him a little bit, but give me your elevator pitch on why is he worthy of the number 1 pick?
He's so
just good.
He's so good, man. He's so good, and he's so young, and he's so confident on the ice, and he's like just a genuine human being. Like, he's been through a lot in his life, and he always has a smile on his face. He always has time to talk, and he gives forthright answers. He's aware of himself and his surroundings and what he needs to work on. And he's just he's a gamer, man. I'm a huge fan of him as a person. And then as a player, almost as much. So mobility, right? Dynamic feet, great edge work, laterally, he can work the line. Defensively has some, he has a good stick. He can surf across. He can thwart rushes. He can clean up his mistakes because of that great mobility. He retrieves pucks. He can bomb outlets. He can get creative with his passing. At the Holinka there, it was him and Gavin McKenna. McKenna was always looking for Schaefer to work off of. He wasn't looking to go across the way to Cameron Schmidt or whatever revolving center they had, Reshny or Coots. I can't remember who else they put in the middle there, but it was always Schaefer. It was always Schaefer. They were just looking give and go off that because they were the two best players. The runway is massive for him too, right? Like he's only like a week away from being in the 2026 class, and then he would probably be pushing McKenna for one in that class too. Like he's just so talented, and I think that the ceiling on him is super super high. Like he should be a top pair guy, and then like there's opportunities for him to be like a true number one, a star, a superstar. Like there's all those levels are there.
Yeah, I mean, I because it's very much big forward, and there was a lot of questions, kind of going into the season, like, okay, it's probably gonna be Hagens or one of these other guys, but like this one didn't feel like Schaefer is just first, like worthy of a first overall pick just because nobody else is worthy. Like he's like a legitimate first overall pick type of player.
Yeah, for sure. And like coming into the year, not a lot of people had him in that range, right? Like lots of people thought he was going to be more like 8 or 10 or something like that. I was in Finland last spring for the U18s, and he was an underager on that Canadian team that ended up winning, and the Americans looked like they were going to run roughshod over it. He was my vote for best defenseman at that tournament as an underager. Like, and so that was, Hudson was there ripping it up. Cole Hudson. They had EJ Emery was really, really strong for them too. Like, but it was just, this kid was so smart, so poised, so mobile, and so young. I was like, there's no way he's not going to just like develop over the next year and end up being a top 2 or 3 pick. And so I had the vision, I had the seeing eye even back then. But again, I wasn't
didn't have the conviction to put him on.
I know, and it's funny too because I tweeted it, right? And I tweeted it out there. I was like, "We're looking at the second overall pick right now," and I got a text like immediately from an NHL scout, and he goes, "Just number 2?" And I was like, "Oh, damn! I should have gone further."
I should have gone. Yeah. All right. So of course, we've talked about some of these other guys. Who's the guy in this class that maybe you feel like isn't getting quite enough love as we're midway through February right now?
Jake O'Brien.
All right. Give me the Jake O'Brien elevator pitch.
You guys like Elias Pettersson? I mean, when he's good. 6'2", kind of slender center. He's only probably like $170.
Oh, we're talking that Elias Pettersson. I thought we were talking. They got like 7.
Yeah. That one. He is a like silky playmaker, like just all sorts of tools in his bag to move the puck, like little hook passes, soft area passes, saucer passes, snaps. Like he just has eyes in the back of his head, draws. He has that gravitational pull where he just draws in opponents and then whoop, finds that lane for that streaking mate. You stack 20 pounds, 25 pounds on this kid, like he's going to be a force in the NHL offensively. So I have a lot of time for him. I think I've got him 6 on my list right now, which might be higher than like most anybody. He's a riser. He's got rockets attached to his boots right now, heading up draftless, I think, and teams are definitely taking notice of him. So he's going to be a good one. He's in that next tier, right? That I think he could like have a chance at being a number 1 center. And then I'll give you one more, is Carter Bear, who I'm a big fan of, putting up monster points in the West this year. On Everett with Landon DuPont, the exceptional status kid in the West, who's a 2027 eligible D, which is weird to just say out loud.
I know,
but Bear is like hard skill. Like he's a menace out there. Like he runs guys, he battles, he's like chippy. And he's got a great release. He's got great handles. He's a vision. I think he plays the center and plays the wing too. We'll see if he sticks down the middle of the ice. But he's one that is like, there's a wide range of opinions on Carter Bear. Like some guys think he's a second rounder, and I think he's a top 10 pick. So he's one that I don't think is getting enough love, at least in the public sphere, anyways. But even on the team side, like I got guys on the working for teams that are texting me like, really, like we're not jiving on Carter Bear. But other guys that we're feeling it too. So it'll be really interesting to see where he goes on draft day.
He does feel like a Mike Greer type of player where it's just like, we're going to play hard, we're going to be skilled, but we're going to be in your face about it too. Like, it does. I don't know if the window there for where he gets picked may not fit with the Sharks, but
I mean, maybe within that 20 pick. Yeah,
if he's
with that
at
Dallas
20,
pick, maybe.
So, but that does feel like a very much a Mike Grier type of pick. So, all right, we'll get you out of here on this last question. Michael Misa goes where in the 2025 draft? What pick?
Is this like betting odds? Can I put like 2.5 or something? I'm gonna say he goes second. I'm gonna say he goes second overall.
That feels pretty safe, yeah. So
yeah, right. It's a cop out. I should have said like 8th or something, and you got a hot take out there. But no,
why do you hate
I think
Michael? Cam Robinson hates Michael Misa.
His agent will be texting me in the next minute. What did you say? Yeah, no, it's. I think he's 2, but there's a world where I think he could go 1, 2. I do.
Makes sense. I mean, especially Schaefer doesn't play the rest of the season. Even if he gets back, maybe he doesn't look himself. And then, how fans and scout, everybody is like, right? What have you done for me lately? Misa goes on a deep run. You could definitely see.
I just think like Chicago is the wild card for me. Is that like I don't know if they'll take Schaefer. I don't know if they'll do it. They've taken so many defensemen, and Bedard desperately needs something, right?
We had a whole campaign. We had to find William Eklund a friend, right? Sharks drafted William Eklund. They had nobody to play with him. We found him some friends. We need to find Connor Bedard a friend. Michael Misa feels like a really nice friend for Connor Bedard. So yeah, I can see.
Right? Yeah.
All right, Cam. You've said it. You've done it all. Where can the people find you? What do you got coming out?
Hockey_Robinson on Twitter. There, obviously, all my work's at EP. They own me, and I love it. Here in Montreal for the Four Nations, we're doing lots of good stuff. I've got a pretty cool piece coming where I've talked to a bunch of like GMs and AGMs and analytics guys on the anatomy of a trade, like how a trade happens mid-season and all the things and all the roadblocks and everything that comes in their way. And so I've been talking to a bunch of guys, got some really cool quotes, and I'll piece that together and put that out before the trade deadline. So that'll probably be a big thing. But yeah, right now, all Four Nations, and then we'll go back to scouting when we get back home here.
Of course, Mike Grier famously never has made a trade, so I'm sure Sharks fans will not be able to relate to this.
I should have got Grier. I don't have his number. I could have asked him to do it, but Mike and I we're not buddies yet. I got to work
not yet.
That.
So yeah, you'll have to reach out to him. So Cam, thank you so much. Enjoy your rest of your Four Nations. Well, hopefully you won't want. At least you'll want to come back at some point. So I'm not going to put you on the spot right now, but I know you got other things to do today. So appreciate your time, and we'll talk again soon, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, not like the dentist. Don't be trying to book me in 6 months in advance. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in June. Right?
I've already sent it. You're going to get the little dental card. It's already on its way to your house. So
every time,
buddy.
Yeah. All right, cheers, man.
Thanks to Cam. I know he's very busy, of course, with Four Nations. Thanks for him to carving out a little bit of time to talk to us about Michael Misa. Misa is super, super intriguing prospect. If the Sharks don't get Schaefer as of right now, I think Misa's the guy I would really want. I still have Schaefer number 1, but Misa, it'd be really hard for me to pass on Misa if the Sharks don't get Schaefer. So thank you again to Cam. Make sure you go check out his work over at Elite Prospects. That's going to be it for today. So we'll be back tomorrow. Make sure you're following wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.